Welcome back to Green Mountain Mornings on WKVT 100.3 FM, AM 1490, Brattleboro's news talk station. It is 28 degrees out there and 8:21 on the clock. I'm your host, Olga Peters, and I have in the studio with me Chris Mays from The Reformer. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks.
And I also want to note that this broadcast, BCTV is also in the studio with us. And the broadcast of Green Mountain Mornings tonight on BCTV is sponsored by the Brattleboro Savings and Loan. Chris, we have a lot to get through today. There is a lot in the world of local news.
Yeah, there really is.
So tell me about Mount Snow is doing some events at the Living Memorial Park. Tell me about that.
Yeah, over here in Brattleboro, they're offering free lessons to people. If they want to sign up, they should call Mount Snow. They're doing it for the next 3 Thursdays, weather permitting. If weather doesn't permit, then they're going to reschedule. So that's something people should take advantage of. And the idea is to offer skiing and snowboarding lessons to people who might not be able to afford it otherwise.
And is it with the there's a nonprofit organization that actually handles all the snow and snowmaking and ski programs?
Yeah. They asked Mount Snow a few years ago if they would be interested, and they've been doing it ever since.
And Mount Snow also has a new food program at its ski area in Dover, correct?
Yeah, they just created this place called Canned, and it's at the Base Lodge, and it's because the only beverages you can get are going to be in cans, and it's going to be all Vermont brews and ciders, and then some snacks like some pretzels. So it sounds good.
And so what's for Mount Snow, what is the kind of big deal about that?
Just having another place for people to hang out and meet after hitting the slopes. They're going to have some kind of beer garden style option for sitting outdoors and something inside when it's a little cooler. Mm-hmm. So I think the hope is to, get people to stay a little longer and spend money and hang out.
and maybe get hooked on some Vermont products.
Yeah.
Well, there's also some changes happening in Jamaica. They're voting tonight on a water project.
Yeah, it's just pretty much the start. If voters say yes to this $7,000 study, these engineers are going to come in and see what it would take to put in a potable water system in the village. And What's interesting about the whole thing is some people outside of the village might not be interested in, funding this project. Mm-hmm. The water study itself is $7,000, but they're not sure how expensive a water system would be, to construct.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I'm just picturing Jamaica Village in my mind, and it's a fairly small but yet compact footprint. I'm kind of wondering where they would put a water system.
It might be, out of the village, but connected to all the businesses and residences there. And proponents of the project say it's needed for economic development to add businesses to expand businesses that are already there.
And economic development because businesses are feeling limited by their septic systems?
Yeah.
Okay. This is so interesting because this is something that Chris Campany at the Wyndham Regional Commission has been touting for a long time.
It is.
About economic development and sewer systems.
Yeah, he was one of the presenters at last week's informational meeting leading up to the vote tonight. So...
Well, thank you. I look forward to hearing how that vote turns out.
Yeah, same here.
Tell us you're working on a article around Narcan. What's happening there?
Well, I started out thinking, it's got to be saving a lot of lives around town. So I got some of the numbers together from Rescue Inc. and Brattleboro Fire Department and Turning Point, an addiction treatment center here in Brattleboro. And it's really amazing how much of an impact this overdose reversal medication is doing for people. It's really saving lives, and Now pharmacists in Vermont can give it to people. Can
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, you can get it at pharmacies, so people can get it there and at Turning Point, and people are saying it's really changing. It's really changing things for the opioid crisis.
Did you go through the Narcan training program as part of this article research?
I do know. I know a little bit about it and how you should call 911
Mm-hmm.
before you administer it, because people will get really sick and
Yeah.
can get very violent when you administer it.
You can also, at Habit Opco, go through a free training program where they'll teach you how to administer Narcan and
Yeah.
also what to look for with overdoses and how to spot an overdose, that type of thing.
Well, now they're giving away this nasal spray, so it's not as intense as injecting it. So yeah, that's one of the big parts of the article too.
Now, at pharmacies, can you get Narcan free?
I'm not sure if it's free, but at Turning Point it is.
Thank you, Chris. Staying in the world of emergency response, Wilmington has a new fire chief.
Yeah, Scott Moore. He's been with the department for decades, since I think 1987, because that's the year I was born. And he's been a lifelong resident. He's really dedicated to the department. He took over as interim fire chief. He was assistant chief when Ken March left early last year,
Mm-hmm.
and the town had been discussing whether a full-time fire chief would be necessary, and they did this whole process of going through the needs of the town and decided that it was necessary. And they opened up the position to people on the department first, because they felt like this, somebody who's been on the department might know, what's needed there. And Scott put his hat into the ring, and he's now the chief in Wilmington.
And does he have any new plans for the department or vision for the department?
Yeah, he really wants to expand on the junior firefighting program. He said it had been really strong in years past. There's still some guys who are, now 40 years on the department who participated in that program as kids. So he wants to see that kind of return to its vibrancy.
Now, remind me, Wilmington has a full-time fire chief now.
Yes.
How's the rest of its staff work? Are they
Volunteer.
they are volunteer?
Yeah.
And about how big is the department?
I'm not sure. They had 20 something firefighters show up to the structure fire a couple weeks ago that actually burned down one of the firefighters' families' homes.
Oh, jeez.
Which was tragic, but on the flip side, the chief was really happy to report that he has such a strong attendance at events like that, because for a while interest was waning and
Mhm.
they weren't getting. I mean, you've heard it at departments in
Yeah.
the region. It's just
It's hard to get volunteers for a lot of emergency responders now, whether it's fire or ambulance, that they require so much training
yeah.
and so much devotion, and yet people don't work in town anymore. There's a lot of reasons they can't get volunteers to incidents. Yeah.
Yeah, and so one of Scott Moore's big goals, and it seems to be pretty successful, is kind of rallying everybody together again and creating this, brotherhood and sisterhood within the department.
Well, good luck to him.
Yeah.
Looking forward to hearing how the department develops. We are back with Green Mountain Mornings on WKVT 100.3 FM AM 1490, Brattleboro's news talk station. 28 degrees out there and 8:39 on this Tuesday, January 9th. I'm your host, Olga Peters, and welcome back to my guest, Chris Mays from The Reformer. Hi, Chris.
Hey.
So we had all sorts of things to talk about at the top of the hour, from Wilmington to Jamaica to Mount Snow. Now let's segue to the most recent select board meeting and talk about NECCA. And they just received a loan for their programming.
Yeah, it's a $50,000 loan through the Small Business Assistance Program the town offers, and that's through money that gets funneled from the feds down to the state. It's usually associated with community development block grant funding. And yeah, the circus school wanted money for working capital. They say with a new building, they need some money to work with to keep things running smoothly and to expand on what they have. They have plans to expand on workshops and some of the training and work and the development, professional development.
And am I remembering this correctly? Jeff Lewis, who's now heading up NECCA, at least for now,
Yeah.
said something about partly they needed the working capital because of money flow issues, that people are signing up for classes now, but they won't expect the payments for the classes until later.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so there's that ebb and flow to their work cycle.
Yeah, it's kind of just getting everything in order right now.
Well, another interesting thing came up around this loan, that they had originally asked for more money, but because of shortages in the loan program,
Yeah.
they weren't able to get the full amount. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, Cultural Intrigue has defaulted on one of their loans, and an Ironwood brand, it looks like is heading the same way.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't have as much money in the revolving loan fund to really feel comfortable about loaning out 80 to 100,000, which is what NECCA originally wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So the committee that makes recommendations on loan amounts suggested that they go with the 50,000, and NECCA was fine with that.
There's also been some developments around the skate park. What's happening there?
Yeah, select board members are planning to have an article at representative town meeting in March to ask about whether to give the skate park $20,000. Right now, I think they're at $120,000, and they need a little bit less than. They need to basically raise that much more too, and so this would be another. The town has already given them $20,000. I think it was approved in 2015.
Okay.
And so, select board chairwoman Kate O'Connor is a little skeptical about giving another $20,000, but a couple other members seem very supportive of that. They want to see this project get done.
How long has this project been in the works?
Well, I came on in 2012, and it had been going on for years and years before I came on. So I think it's been more than 10.
Okay, thank you for that, because I was trying to remember, and when I came on the Commons in 2009, I think it was already in the works as well.
Yeah.
So this has been an ongoing saga for the skate park.
Yeah, they're gonna put it at Living Memorial Park, and it just takes a lot of money to get the construction going on this thing.
Do they have a construction start date?
No. They want to have I forget how much they want. They want to have a certain amount of money raised, and then they're gonna go and get the plans from an engineer, and then they'll be ready for construction.
Well, good luck with that. We shall see. It's so funny sometimes. I don't know if you feel this way, Chris, but if I've been covering a issue for a long time, it goes into this limbo place of feeling, wait a minute, didn't they already sort that out? To, wait a minute, are they ever going to sort this out? And I have to admit, the skate park is a little in that limbo place for me.
Yeah, I think now that they have the site, that's one big milestone for them. And now it's been the funding I've been following. It's they've been going for a bunch of grants, and they have a bunch of applications out now, and they're very hopeful about getting this project together soon.
And how about tonight, speaking about the Brattleboro Select Board, they're holding a special meeting, and they'll be talking about budget issues for fiscal 19. But they're also going to be talking about the jobs program that the town is considering.
Yeah, this may or may not be included in this year's budget. They said they weren't sure if they were going to have all the information together. Groundworks Collaborative is working on getting some information together about a jobs program to offer to people who are, homeless or panhandling. That's where this whole program started. The discussion started when they were talking about panhandling and how they could address it.
And this job programs, just for the sake of listeners who are maybe new to the issue, it would be basically a day labor program where folks who don't have full-time employment could show up and they would work for a day and then get paid cash at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I guess somebody who's involved in helping and volunteering with initiatives that help low-income residents and homeless people said that they used to have a program like that a bunch of years back, and I don't know how something ended. So maybe this might be a jump start to that.
Hopefully, I was speaking with Josh Davis last week. He was in the studio, and he was saying that there are so many regulations around employment that working with the Department of Labor around things like unemployment insurance and workman's comp and all those regulations are having a bit of a hurdle effect on the project, which is one reason it may or may not happen this year, is how do we work that red tape so that folks who aren't necessarily, for lack of a better term, in the system can start accessing it.
Yeah, and that was one of the big things the select board recognized when they were talking about how big of a project or undertaking this is going to be.
What about the groundwork shelter? You're working on an article around that as well.
Yeah, I've talked with some of the clients at Groundworks Collaborative, and I've talked about the new shelter, and I've heard a lot of positive things about it, and I'm going for a tour on Friday, and I've also been talking to some people experiencing homelessness about what it's been like, and especially what it's like this winter, and how they feel about what can be done in town.
Any feedback that you can share at this point?
Some people had expressed a concern about there not being enough warm clothing being available. And then shortly after that, New Chapter had donated some clothing to Groundworks, and Agape also had some warm clothing. So it's one of those things where it's just like the constant need. It's the same thing with housing. That's one of the big things. They're saying there's not enough affordable housing. So. And
for readers, when will this article be in the Reformer so they can read it in full?
Well, I'm not sure. It should be. I'm hoping soon. I have it all together. I just got to hand it in, and then we're also taking the tour on Friday not Friday. What is it? Thursday. Yeah. So hopefully, by the weekend or early next week.
Well, thank you so much for coming in today,
Yeah,
Chris.
thanks for having me.
And you can find Chris's work at the Brattleboro Reformer, either in the paper copy or at reformer.com. And I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, you too.